Hey guys, I'm Tom, aka Bamboo Leaves. If you're new here, this channel is for those of you who want to learn about making and releasing alternative electronic music. If that sounds like something you're interested in, make sure to subscribe to this channel so that you can catch more videos just like this one as they come out. If you have any artists or genres that you'd like me to try to replicate, let me know down in the comments below. And if you like this video, make sure to leave a like, and that can really help me out. So with that out of the way, let's jump over to the DAW and check out this Chris Stussy, DJOKO inspired minimal house track. Okay, right, we'll do our thing, start from the top and we'll work our way down to the bottom. First up, I've got these bongo, sort of washy bongo samples that are just playing as like a bit of a bed for the atmosphere and for the percussion. It's right, thin, washy sounding bongos. So I'll play it without any of the processing on it. So without that processing, it's much more clear, it's much more transient based, and it's like a lot crispier. As part of that minimal house genre, I've kind of gone for this sort of flangey, rotor cabinet kind of washy percussion sound. So I have introduced a rotor cabinet, so Logic's rotor cabinet on top of that to make it start sounding a bit more wooden, a little bit more washy. And that gives it a bit more stereo spread, a bit more space. I've included a LFO tool, so that's doing my side chaining, keeping it pumping with that kick drum. And then I've got a tremolo on there. So that's kind of moving the sound to the left and to the right, nice and slowly, and washing it around your head. Right, next up we've got this hi-hat topper. Right, so if I take the processing off this one, you know, a bit of percussion, a bit of hi-hats, but I've introduced these effects to make it washy and sit in the background and fit that minimal micro house vibe. So to start with, I took off the low ends. I introduced a flanger, so I threw a flanger on there with a mix of about 50%. So that's where we start getting a bit more wavy with it. Again, I've put on an LFO tool on there for that side chaining, and then I've got this sample delay that's on there that is spreading the signal out to the left and the right, so fully wide in the mix. I did that so that it has space for the other instruments down the center. Right, now we're on to the actual main parts of the drums, so I'll play all the drums together. Classic sounding minimal house drums. We'll start with the kick. Right, that really deep, subby, driving kick. And I've achieved that through Logic's drum synth. So I've got this heavy kick preset from the drum synth, and I've changed the pitch of that note, and I've shaped this sound with like a longer decay. I've added in some shape and some sweep to give a bit more click to the sound, but not too much click. And after sort of comparing some of the Chris Stussy kicks that he seems to be using, I sort of dialed it in to have a similar sound to that one. I think I can owe a lot of that sub end to the fact this is a synthesizer, so it's got that sine wave that's kind of coming through and providing that deep sub. Let's have a listen to this clap. So the clap is just some sort of 808 crunchy, really short, dead sounding clap. I made sure to choose one that was really quick and didn't have any tail. I haven't got any reverb or anything like that on it, so it's like nice and dead, nice and sort of crispy, right up in your face, and that's that minimal house vibe. The only thing I have done is I've rolled off some of the lows and the highs to box it in, so without that, and with it. Right, next up I've got this another clap that I've replicated, and I've called it the echo clap, and that is just the same clap as before. I've dragged it onto a different track. I've made the I brought the volume down a little bit so it sort of plays off the main clap, and it's got some delay, so let's listen to it. So if you listen to it with the main clap, so that's what I'm doing there. I've got that main clap that's just going on every other beat, and then I've got this other clap that's sort of playing off those with some sort of delays, and it keeps it interesting. So again, for that one, I've used that same bandpass frequency filter on the EQ, and then I've just got this echo one there with a sort of a nice wet dry balance, as you can see. Right, next up we've got this hi-hat. So that's on the upbeat, so let's just have the kicks, claps and hi-hats. You gotta make sure that you're choosing your samples nicely, going through your sample sound banks and making sure that you got something crispy sounding, something nice and compressed sounding. Okay, right now, so we got these triplet-y kind of shaker hi-hat combinations, so I'll just solo those all together and we can have a listen. I've got that as 3 constituent parts. We've got a shaker, a hi-hat, and another shaker. So we've got these shaker, number 1, just sounds like this. I've got that panned off to the right a little bit. To emphasize the transients, I pulled in a hi-hat sample. So that's why it's playing at the same time as the shaker, but it's just got that additional transient instead of. And then on the 3rd track, I've got that original shaker, and I've dragged the volume down a little bit more so it plays off those other shaker hi-hat samples, and I've just dragged it off the beat from the other one. So if I zoom in, you can see how they're positioned. I've got a bandpass filter on the 2nd shaker. I think that's also to bring that playing off it, so that the 1st shaker has a bit more high end, a little bit more low end, and the 2nd shaker has much less of that, so it does that sort of the volume and the frequency banding of it makes it sound like they're different shakers and they play off each other. So let's listen to the drums with those toppers. So as kind of part of the minimal house vibe, to bring in interest through the track without too many musical elements, I've got these different sort of pauses where the kick stops or maybe the claps stop, and it pauses, makes the listener think it's going to drop in, waits a bar, then comes back in with maybe like a triple kick or something. So for example, if you listen to this bit. Okay, we'll get on to the musical elements now. Starting off with this atmosphere. Right, nice, lush, kind of reverberant sounding, big atmospheric sample. I've dragged in this synth cut from somewhere. So this is how the original sample sounded. So I dragged that one into the quick sampler here. I brought in the fade of the start so that it has a more of a sudden lead in instead of a stabby kind of sound. So without any of the processing, it would sound like this. So first up, I put on a really big 31-second vintage reverb. And the mix is 100%, so it's all reverb, all atmosphere. Next, I wanted to take out some of that low end, so it's just the crispy atmospheric high end. And then finally, I put that LFO tool on there to do the side chaining for the kick. Next up, we've got this bass. I've used Logic's Retro Synth, really versatile but simple synthesizer to get some analog, nice, crunchy, filtered synth sounds. So I've just got some basic patch going on here. I've brought the filter right down low with a bit of resonance boosting, and I've got this filter envelope. So just that analog bass sound, and I've got that amp envelope that makes it a bit pluckier as well. And I've made sure that I've got this sine wave level nice and high, so you get that big deep bassy sine wave in there. So without any of the processing on it, it sounds a bit weedier. First up, I put a compressor on there to make sure that it was all flattened and all of the sounds were squashed in and the same level. I've put an overdrive on there. That'll like beef up and thicken up that sound, and it'll also flatten off some of those higher frequencies so that it can be audible without necessarily some headphones that can pick up all those subby notes. I've put an LFO tool on there as well for that kick and that side chaining, and then I just had a limiter on there to make sure that it didn't start clipping. So an important part with this, I think, is the programming of those MIDI notes. Goes nice and high, nice and low really quickly, sort of arpeggiated bass notes as well. Cool, nice one. I think that bass really kind of builds up the track and gives that rhythm and groove that plays off the kicks and the claps as well. All right, now we've got these simple vocal shouts. Yeah, quick sampler, dragged in some vocal shout. I've got a gain on there so that I could click that mono button and make sure that it was monoed right down the middle. Next, we've got this wah effect. So that like wah pedal kind of guitar-y whoop sound. So that one is actually a vocal sample. So originally it would sound like this. Gonna feel it! I just took that initial syllabants and I used this filter cutoff section here so that I made sure that the cutoff was pulled down low, so otherwise it would sound, but with it dragged down, and then the envelope pushed up to 100%. It will whip open that cutoff envelope. I use the cutoff filter envelope to open up quickly with the attack being pushed off there. So I added a Valhalla vintage verb and a low end cutoff. And then finally, I've got this organ stab. That deep house, minimal house, organ stab sound. Again, I've used a sample for this one. So originally the sample would have sounded like this. So I used the envelope section down at the bottom to drag it down, so to really make it a plucky stab kind of sound, and I dragged in the sample end time and a fade to emphasize it. Okay, and on there I just boosted some of those high ends and I put on a vintage verb, reverb again. I got this bust off to a stereo delay as well to add a bit more of that effects interest. Quite subtle, so it's just dotting around a little bit. And that's it, 14 tracks to build this one up. And like I say, the interesting parts come from when you take instruments out, have a pause, bring them back in, and I've made sure to do that through a few parts of this mini track here. Thanks for watching to the end of this video. If you got any questions, leave them down below in the comments and I'll try to get around to answering them. Once again, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like to really help me out and consider subscribing to this channel for more videos just like this one as they come out. Other than that, I'll see you in the next one.